Welcome back to another edition. And I'm so excited to have on this show Dr. Megan Ford, who is, I don't know that you were an OG with financial therapy, right?
I was a junior OG, I would
You
say.
absolutely.
like
It's like
second
you've been there the
generation.
whole time.
It feels like it. It feels like it. Yeah, I was probably like immediate second generation.
Yeah, maybe immediate enough that we should lump you into OG.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yes, that's a good group to be associated with. So I'll take it.
And I'm talking about there was 30 of us that were called together by Dr. John Grable in 2009, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, does this financial therapy thing have legs? Is there anything to it? Or is it just a passing fad? And it wasn't a unanimous decision. And those of us that thought it may have legs got together and co-founded the Financial Therapy Association. And you had to be at the first meeting, the first conference.
I believe the first conference was at Kansas State University.
Yeah.
That would make sense. And I was a graduate student at the time. So I believe if I had a Financial Therapy Association annual conference bingo card, that I would have it would be a blackout. Like I've attended all of the conferences.
And so that's something that we share in common.
Okay, so you would have a blackout as well.
I'd have a blackout as well. So we've kind of been with this organization, and before I delve into a lot, Megan and I have something in common that, well, only 900,000 people in the world share.
Yes, there's not
And
a lot of us in comparison with the number of people
on
globally.
the exactly. And Megan is originally from Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
That I am. Yes, I am a Sioux Falls native, born and raised, lived there, and went to undergraduate there at the University of South Dakota in Vermilion. And then of course I've gone other places for graduate school, but I lived in South Dakota for a long time, and you have as well.
All my whole life, for
Yeah,
sure. So you're a marriage and family therapist. That is your graduate degree.
that is my graduate degree. Yes,
Was
absolutely.
did you start off at Vermilion with that thought, or what was your trajectory to where you are?
Yeah. I think as I was growing closer to the end of my undergraduate time in maybe junior, senior year, I wasn't quite sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I had been really inspired by a wonderful professor that taught Psychology 101. Um, and it just so happened that when I was getting to that more advanced stage, and thinking about what's next, I sought him out and I said, I'm really thinking like counseling or therapy might be something that I'm interested in doing. However, I'm very interested in relationships. We find to work with individuals, but I'm really interested in couples and relationships. And he kind of mentored me through that conversation and said, have you ever heard of marriage and family therapy as a career, as a profession, and a potential graduate program pathway that you could pursue? I said no. But that sounds like something that would be really fascinating and interesting and would align with what I'm looking to learn more about couples and families as they're kind of lumped in as well. So yeah, it was a just function of that like serendipitous conversation that I circled back to with my psychology 101 professor that I landed at Kansas State University for my master's in marriage and family therapy. And then again, like serendipity that my graduate assistantship during that period of time was with Dr. Christy Archuleta. And so I got to know Christy very well. And, she was my, still is one of my mentors to this day. I was her first graduate assistant ever. She was a
Wow.
brand new, yeah, she was a brand new professor at Kansas State at the time. And so I also got to know John Grable and Dr. Sonia Luder, who was there at the time, and many others. But that was just, yeah, that was sort of the path that I took. I think that there were a lot of just happenstance moments that led me to where I am today. But so glad that I was able to meet those people so early on and be adopted into financial therapy when I did.
So I'm struck that you started on the path interested in couples.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that may be unusual. I'm not sure. In that, not every therapist is a couples therapist.
Right.
And I'm guessing not every marriage and family therapist is a couples therapist.
Sure. I definitely think that you're right there. I feel like what I didn't have language for at the time, I didn't have the words for, was that I feel like I was always naturally kind of a systemic thinker. And of course, as I learned more and was more exposed to the fact that that was, a theoretical orientation that is, very much close to how marriage and family therapists work. And it's really kind of what they're anchored in. Now I have that language. And so looking back, it like makes sense that I was probably drawn to couples and families and that work because I do naturally think systemically, I think relationally. And that wasn't represented in a lot of the programs that maybe I was looking at initially for, just counseling or social work or some of those things.
So can you explain a little bit to somebody that doesn't understand the family system? What the basics behind family therapy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it really does stem from that systemic lens and how all parts in a system are, interrelated. In a family system, if someone say put it in the context of finances, makes a financial decision, that has ramifications and maybe a domino effect within the rest of that family system, especially, concerning like parents and children. If a parent makes a particular money decision, that has implications for their partner, for their children, maybe even multi-generations as well. So I think when we're thinking systemically in family systems, we're thinking about how all of those parts work together. And when problems or change needs to occur, we're thinking about how we can't just think about how a recommendation influences or impacts one person in a system. We're thinking about how change kind of impacts multiple people and may need to be held up through the relationships between people as well for it to be long lasting.
So I'm going to say something that I think is anathema to family systems, and let me know if that's correct. It would be if I could just fix this one person in the family, we'd be fine.
That's something that's really a common notion that people come in with, right? Like, fix them. fix them, and sort of pointing the finger, or, if we're thinking about like systems language or family systems, we might call that person like the identified patient,
Right.
the IP in the system. They are the symptom carrier for the family system. And really, the manifestation of those symptoms may be because of relational turmoil. And again, this kind of like gets us into some rabbit holes around other theories that sort of would help us to translate that even further, and look at that even more closely. But yes, oftentimes when people walk in the door to a therapist's office, it's about, they miss the fact that they might need to look at themselves as well as the patterns or the dynamics that keep problems present.
And that's been really brought out. I've done marriage counseling training through the IFS
Yes.
lens called Intimacy from the Inside Out.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole focus is, okay, so when they said that, what's going on inside of you? Mm-hmm. What are the stories you're making up? And so often, and I find this in my marriage, that I can be pointing the finger and say, if you'd only change, problem is solved.
Yeah. Yeah. We are really good at convincing ourselves that the change that needs to occur outside of ourselves. But if we take a moment and really think about what role we play in the presence and the continuation of problems that occur in our lives. I think that's that's a big step for a lot of us, and that's maybe a big ask. But it's an important reframe to what we might need to look at in order for there to be something different that occurs for us.
And I suspect that might carry over into our finances.
Oh, well, certainly. Undoubtedly.
How did you get into money? I mean, you've named everybody that you met that are all foundational in the formation of the Financial Therapy Association. Mm-hmm. How did that come about?
Right. I think almost like by a little bit of, sort of by accident. Like being a graduate assistant for Christy Archuleta certainly gave me a door into that world. I will say that I was very nervous about stepping into that world, even though it was part of my role, my work with her. That was a piece of it. I think I also really was fearful of embracing that for a lot of personal reasons that I understand much better now, of course, having been, doing this work, doing research in financial therapy, and really understand doing some, work on self and understanding that better too. But, now I understand why I was so hesitant to kind of maybe embrace some of that. And it really has to do with the fact that, I have what I would call kind of like narratives or wounds from past and childhood, I think, that related to my belief in self, around how capable I am as a person with money. And it really is rooted in some early learning type stuff. I was not very inclined when it comes to math. That wasn't something that was reinforced for me. The environment in which that I was schooled and educated really I don't think, and the time period as well, not just kind of the location and the school itself, but the time period. Um, Maybe there were some gendered kinds of things about, oh, well, girls don't need to worry about math, or maybe girls aren't
Right.
super inclined when it comes to math and science. So maybe some of those biases were present too. But yeah, I think I definitely carried those things around, and that translated for me into a belief about, wow. I don't want to deal with money because that has something to do with math and numbers, and I'm not good at that. So I kind of became a textbook money avoider as a
Yeah,
result.
okay.
And
Yep.
then, getting the opportunity to sort of step into this financial therapy space in graduate school, all of that came back
Yeah.
in a really real way that made me face sort of like, oh wow, okay. I might need to explore this. I might need to look at this a little bit more. So yeah, it's been a journey, but that's really where I think it comes from, and part of how I ended up here. I'm one of those wounded healers, like many you will hear from in the financial therapy space, that there was something about money that just wasn't their relationship with it that needed looking at, or that needed healing. And yeah,
So what I'm hearing you saying is your money journey with your relationship with money and the healing that you went through seem to be foundational to be able to do the work that you're doing today.
I think it's essential to, absolutely. Yes, I would definitely co-sign that. I think it's essential that those who are thinking about work in this space as a practitioner, especially those who are helping or wanting to help others maybe heal their own relationship with money, or help couples deal with financial conflict, having having the ability to do one's own reflection and self
Mhm.
work is essential to that. And that's probably part of some of my like marriage and family therapy training that carries over into that notion as well. Therapy, especially marriage and family therapists, and their training, they do a lot of self of the therapist work. Because your clients undoubtedly will hold up a mirror to the stuff that you haven't quite sorted through. And not that everyone has to be this fully together person, completely healed. Like I don't also think that that's a reasonable expectation. We're constantly evolving and healing and changing as humans and as practitioners. And people. So I don't think that's the expectation, but certainly if you're going to be helping others with their journey, you should look at your stuff too.
So what you're saying is interesting to me because when I got into the marriage counseling training, um, that was so emphasized. I'd say half of the training was what's coming up for you
Right?
and doing your own work, looking at your own parts. Um, I'd say that was 50% of it. And so this is interesting to me that there is that emphasis on doing your own work. And one of the criticisms that I have heard from people in a therapy track, a mental health track, is sometimes there's not a lot of emphasis on doing your own work. And is this different with marriage and family therapy from other social work or other mental health tracks?
I would say from my perspective, I have to own my bias, right? I am a marriage and family therapist, so I might have, a little bit of a biased perspective. But I would say comparatively, I think that it is more emphasized, and marriage and family therapists also, I think, overall experience a bit more um, intense supervision on the topic as well. It's really integrated into how we are supervised, and how we learn how to be therapists. At least it was in my experience. What's it bringing up for you is a piece of the supervision conversation that is essential for, really trying to, you know, do the things that you're trying to do in therapy.
So the interior examination was quite familiar to you when you ran into this thing called money.
Yes, it was. Oh, Megan,
And
you should look at that maybe. What's
how
that
did you
bringing up
do
for
that?
you?
How did you look at it? How did you do that work?
I think it's interesting to look back at that time now, right? Like hindsight is 2020, but I think I probably pieced it together in bits and pieces rather than had, an overwhelming sense of I need to tackle this thing in me that feels unresolved around money. It probably happened more organically than that, having conversations with, you know, Christy or John, and maybe growing to understand my thoughts around some of the perceived limitations that I believe that I carried. Almost like piece by piece, layer by layer. It's like the onion sort of visual. It's like peeling back the layers. I think it probably happened that way. And becoming more and more immersed in the community of financial therapists was probably a really big piece of it too. Other people who were maybe on similar journeys to understanding themselves and sort of why this why this new profession seems so intriguing and interesting and like personally fulfilling. Yeah, going on kind of like parallel journeys to some of those folks, and having those conversations. I'm sure it's all um, you know, put those pieces in place for me bit by
So
bit.
you're known as one of the foremost researchers in the field of financial therapy. And
That's
I'm
scary. That's
really
scary.
curious. You think so?
Yeah, it's a little scary. That
Well,
feels big.
I have just decreed it. Um, how is it for you? Because you were in practice, or I mean, you've worked with couples as a
Sure,
practitioner.
you bet.
Uh, uh, you made the path to academics. Was that was pretty flawless, or right from your studies, right?
Yeah, so I would say I have had a pretty seamless pathway
That's
through academia, and have been in academia for most of my career. Yes.
So how is it? I mean, are are there parts of you that really miss that? You love relationships. I mean, that's what kind of got you started. And do you look back at being a researcher, missing part of that, or your success has been great, definitely in researching. I might tell everybody that Megan became Dr. Megan 2 years ago.
Yeah, two or three actually. Time flies. So I'm thinking it's probably closer to three now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how is that for you?
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing about the role that I occupy as a non-tenure track faculty member is that while I am still able to contribute to research that happens that can help to move the field of financial therapy forward even further, which I think is actually like really, really important. One of the, I'll go off on a slight tangent and then and then come back. But one of the things that I think that the FTA, the field was really intent on having be an important principle that it was built upon was this evidence-based practice piece. And the early leaders and researchers, I think, have really tried to continue that movement. How do we know that what we're doing in the room with a client is having an impact or actually working sustainably or long term? I think there's a lot of that still needs research. And so evidence-based practice in financial therapy is so important. So I can have a role in that as someone who is in an academic setting, which is fabulous. At the same time, I also have this really great privilege to work and train the next generation, the up and comers in financial therapy, who will hopefully follow their passions, whether that be to contribute to research in financial therapy, an academic setting, and really kind of grow the population and the curriculum in financial therapy that way, or those who are going to go out into the world and make a difference with clients. So we sort of have this still this tie-in to client work, even though that might not occupy a big portion of my time personally. I'm able to help students train and get better at working with clients and increase their own confidence and learning in these different areas, including financial therapy. So that's really special.
Yeah, and what some listeners may not know is I believe you are in charge of the, what's the new clinic's name?
Yeah, the Love and Money Center for Relational and Financial Wellbeing at the University of Georgia.
Yes, and that brings financial planning students and therapy students together.
That's right.
To work with clients around their money issues.
That's right, yes.
And it's been around for how long? 10 years?
So, launched so the history of it for a long time at the University of Georgia, it was a marriage and family therapy clinic. So the first kind of iteration was, it was a training clinic for marriage and family therapists. And then in 2009, actually, so quite a long time ago, it sort of redeveloped into what was the Aspire Clinic then. And it was still kind of this like holistic model training clinic for financial planning students, therapy students, and others. And then the sort of third iteration, this next step in the difference that we're trying to make is the Love and Money Center, and really focusing in on where we know that we are strong and resourced, and we have experts in the field who can sort of guide these things. Yeah, so it's been around for a minute. So officially, I guess 2009 was when it all started, and I started in 2011. So I've been at the University of Georgia for about 15 years.
For a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Think you'll ever get back to South Dakota?
For visits, absolutely. I told someone the other day, I feel like I did my time in terms of the winter months there, and I hit my quota for a lifetime. So
you did your time in South Dakota.
I did, and I think I think that sounds worse than I mean it to, and it's really about, are we able to endure the cold for that many months out of the year? Now that I've had a taste of a different part of the country where that's not the case, I think it would be would be difficult to resubscribe to that.
Megan, it's been delightful having you on. There's so much more we could talk about.
Absolutely.
And if somebody wants to reach out to you, how do they find you?
They can find me. I'm not the best on LinkedIn, so I'll just say disclaimer. You can find me on LinkedIn, but I'm not the best on LinkedIn. My contact information is on the Levin Money Center's website, so you can send me an email directly if you're interested in what we do there or you'd like to learn more. I'm always available to have conversations with people who are interested in this field and feel passionate about relational and financial well-being. So yeah, please connect with me. I would be more than happy to chat.
Thank you so much for taking the time in a very busy schedule to chat with us. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. I'm so happy that we got a chance to do this.